Good morning, it's me, Mr. Tree. I'm back again for another video in geometry. Today we're going to be looking at the volume of a pyramid and the volume of a cone. So the first thing we need to go over is our formula that we use we take the FSA, and on our FSA reference sheet they give us this formula, which is kind of vague and it only accounts for, it's a generic formula that covers multiple pyramids and cones. So to do this we have to modify it each time depending on what situation we have. This would be a square pyramid, this would be a cone, this would be a triangular pyramid. All three are using a different formula. So to do this, we have to modify this formula, and we're going to modify this part right here in particular, the capital B. Each time, that is what's going to be changing, because that capital B stands for base area. So we have to figure out how it changes. So on the first one, we're going to look at, this is a pyramid that is sitting on, and I like to draw on the side overall. I like to draw the shape that it sits on, because that'll help me find that formula. This is sitting on the square. And so to find the area of that square, I usually use length times width. In this case, 6 times 6. So the volume is going to be 1/3. Capital B, which stands for the base area, which is 6 times 6, times the overall height from the base, perpendicular from the base to the top of the pyramid, in this case would be 4. That's our height. 5 represents our slant height, and we do not use that for calculating the volume. We do use it for other things like surface area and, just basically for surface area. All right, so as I go through and do this, I want to stick to the whole please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, so I'm going to stick with my parentheses. My first one is I have a 36 times 6 is 36. And the second thing I want to do after I do my parentheses, I want to do my multiplication. So 1 times 36 times 4 is 144 over 3, and then I want to do my division last. 144 divided by 3 gives me 48. And since we're talking about feet, all measurements in feet, cubic feet. And that'd be our square pyramid. Now that would not change if we were doing a rectangular pyramid, because we'd still be using length times width, except the 6 would be, instead of using 2 of the same number on a rectangle, it would be slightly different. We might have 6 and 8, 6 and 7, who knows, 10 and 12, it doesn't matter. Different numbers. All right, the next one, we're going to be doing a cone, which means this base is going to change because we're not sitting on a square this time, we're sitting on a circle. And on that circle, our area for a circle is pi r squared. Over here we were length times width, now we're pi r squared, and when we look at this, our radius is, in this case, 9. So when we go to do our problem, we're going to go volume equals 1/3 pi 9 squared, and then I realize I got an issue. This wasn't here earlier. I want to make sure we know how to do this. Earlier when I wrote the problem down, I wrote it down with an 18 and a 41 only. And the reason being is I want to make sure that we understand that if I was to give you the slant height of 41 and I was to give you the radius or diameter, can we calculate the height? So in this problem, when I wrote it up earlier, this was blank. And I had no height here. So I found that if I make a little triangle off to the side and I write 9, 41, and h, I'd have 9 squared, 8 squared, 41 squared, that's 81 plus 1681. H squared comes out to be 1600, which means our height is 40. And so I had this down earlier a little bit different. So this was our capital B. And so when I work that out, I want to do that in the whole step. So please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So I've got 1/3. Pi r squared is going to give me 81 pi times 40. All right, so we're going to multiply now. I did my parentheses, I did my exponents. Now I'm going to do my 81 times 40. And I get 3,240 over 3 with a pi. Well, I got to divide now. So since 3,240 happens to divide by 3, I get 1080 pi. If someone asks us to give the answer to the nearest tenth, that's our cue to go ahead and take this number of 1080 and times it by 3.14. Most of the time though, we just leave it in pi unless specifically told to. All right, my last example is a picture of a different type of pyramid called a triangular pyramid. It's triangular in the fact that it's not sitting on a rectangle, it's sitting on a triangle. And if I was to draw that base, I have an 8, a 6, and a 10. Well, when I go to do my area should be length times width, and since it's a triangle, over 2. Well, in this case, the length and the width are the 8 and the 6. They represent the width and the height of the shape. So we call that, we call it technically our base and our height. So to find our volume, and this is gonna make people kind of freak out here, but we're gonna do 1/3, parentheses, length times width, which is 8 times 6, divided by 2, times the overall height. In this case, that height would be 11. Well, remember, we stayed down, please excuse me, dear Aunt Sally, stay in the parentheses first. 8 times 6 is 48. Divide it by 2 and you get 24. So I've got 1/3, 24 times 11. Well, 24 times 11 is 264 over 3. Well, when I work that out, I end up with an answer of 88 inches cubed. So as long as I take all these fractions in steps, it shouldn't be that big a deal. Just take your time. All right, our last example is the volume of a cone is 867 pi. If the height is 9, what's the radius? Well, when I read a question like this and I see the volume of a cone is 867 pi, that automatically triggers me to write down the formula for volume of a cone. So I'm going to start with 1/3 pi r squared h, and I know that this volume is supposed to be equal to 867 pi. Well, right away when I look at this, I can go ahead and plug in the first number. I know the height is 9, so I can erase the h and plug in a 9. And the other thing I notice is I've got a pi on the left and a pi on the right. Those could cancel. And so going back to that, please excuse me, dear Aunt Sally, I've got 1 times 9 is 9, but when I divide it by 3, I end up with 3 r squared 867. Well, if I divide by 3 again, I've got r squared is equal to 289. Well, the radius is not 289, it's the square root of that. So take the square root, and r is equal to 17. But again, the key thing is whenever I get a problem that says the volume of a cone, I write down the volume of a cone, or if it says volume of a pyramid, write down the formula first and what it's going to equal, and then go back and plug in the numbers. All right, that's it for this video. I hope it works. Hope it helps you out.